iMax பள்ளியில் children with learning difficulty, slow learners சொல்லுவோம். அவர்களை வந்து iMaxல வந்து எப்படி ஃபீல் பண்றோம், வாட் இஸ் த பிராக்டிஸ் என்பதை இப்பொழுது உரையாற்றுகிறார்கள். அதற்கு முன்பாக ஓமியத் எக்ஸ்பிரஸ் எக்ஸ்ட்ரீம் சாரி ஃபார் லாஸ்ட் மீட்டிங் அப்ரூப்ட்லி ஸ்டாப். சென்ற வாரம் ராபியா பஸ்ரி அவர்கள் ஆரம்பிக்கும் போது ஜூம் டெக்னிக்கல் இஷ்யூ காரணமாக அப்படியே மீட்டிங் ஸ்டாப் ஆயிடுச்சு. அதை ரெண்டாவது அது செட்டரைட் பண்ணி ஆரம்பிக்கிறதுக்குள்ள வந்து டைம் ஆயிட்டதுனால நாங்கள் வந்து மீட்டிங்கை கன்க்ளூட் பண்ணிட்டோம். எக்ஸ்ட்ரீம்லி சாரி, எக்ஸ்பிரஸ் அவர் sorry, and now we move on to the next session. Over to Rabia Basri. Sister Rabia, நீங்க அன்மியூட் பண்ணுங்க.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, sir. I cannot share my screen, sir.
You are removed.
Only host can share this meeting. Just make me the host, sir.
Sister, now you can share.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are going to discuss about the practices in iMax nursery and primary school in dealing with children with learning difficulties in regular schooling. We are continuing the discussion on learning disability. Last week we discussed about the introduction part. Today we are going to see how it is being executed in schools practically, especially what is being implemented in iMax school. Learning disability. Just a recap, learning disability is a neurological condition and hence it's not a sign of low intelligence. In fact, children with learning disabilities have average and above average intelligence. Children with learning disorders are not able to acquire academic skills expected for their age, intellectual ability, and education. Learning disability cannot be cured. It is a lifelong disability. Born dyslexic, die dyslexic. So it is not a disease, it cannot be cured. However, with timely intervention and support, children with learning disabilities can be successful in school. Parents and teachers are the first persons to notice that child is finding it difficult to read, write, or learn. Learning, disab- Learning disability is a lifelong condition. In some children, several overlapping learning disabilities may occur. Other may have a simple isolated learning problem that has little impact on their lives. The most common treatment for learning disability is special education. Characteristics of learning disabilities are letter and number reversals. The child sees B for D or P for 6, for 9, pots for stop, or post, saw as was. These are the difficulties the child faces in academics. Poor reading skills, below age and grade level. For example, the child in grade 4, but the child has the reading ability of grade 1. Frequent confusion about directions and time, right, left, up, down, yesterday, tomorrow, are some of the symptoms of learning disabilities. Types of learning disabilities. In the last session, we discussed about 4 types of learning disabilities: dyslexia, a language and reading disability; dyscalculia, problems with arithmetic and math concept; dysgraphia, a writing disorder resulting in illegibility; dyspraxia, sensory integration disorder, problems with motor coordination. Prevalence: 5 to 10% of the world population suffers from dyslexia. 1 of every children is dyslexic. 1 of every 10 children is dyslexic, according to the research done in the year 2006. 15 to 20% of US population are dyslexic. Famous persons with dyslexia: Thomas Alva Edison, Walt Disney, Tom Cruise, Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Alexander Graham Bell, George Washington, Abhishek Bachchan are some of the famous personality with dyslexia. Make it or break it. That will either be a total success or a total failure. Everything lies in the teacher's hand, how we treat the child. How can a teacher help dyslexic? Listening to children's feeling and must help them to learn to talk about their feelings, rewarding their effort, not just the product, only by appreciation the words. Do not discourage the child with dyslexia. Words such as lazy or incorrigible can seriously damage them, the child's image and self-image. Remedial measures are the best solution for the dyslexic children. Need to identify their strength, what they are really good at. With appropriate support, the children can shine. Needs only appreciation. Whether it is good or bad, we have to encourage the children and motivate the children to overcome the difficulties. As a teacher and a parent, need to give them all the help and pull them from their problem. Child is good. He's only crying for love and affection. Dyslexia can be a gift. They think differently. Coping strategy to be given to dyslexic. For example, the people who suffers with the eyesight problem, how they are having the specs like a coping strategy. Same way we can give hand holding. We can give some technique to strategies to learn the steps to overcome the difficulties. First thing, we need to make them convinced that they are no way lesser than others. Need to use multisensory mode of teaching. VACT, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile types of learning, we have to implement while teaching. Focus on not how smart they are, but on what smart they are. Parents awareness programs also to be conducted. Skill developments to be focused to overcome their difficulties. Need to set up remedial centers within the school. Remedial classes are the only solution for the dyslexic students. Right age to identify dyslexia is in UKG. But in class 1, we can start the remedial classes. The biggest problem of dyslexia is by seeing it cannot be identified. He or she has problem in reading and writing. We as a teacher should not shout at the child and do not say you are good for nothing. Lifelong, the child has to get support. If a child can't learn in standard 1, then the child cannot learn in grade 2 also. The gap keeps growing. Dyslexia workshop focuses on nursery and primary teachers rather than higher class teachers to identify the problem at early stage. And we as a teacher are laying foundation. We are the best people to solve the problem at the early stage. After fourth standard, it's very difficult to solve the problem. Multisensory strategies. VACT. V stands for visual, A stands for auditory, K stands for kinesthetic motor, T stands for tactile. Visual learner. A picture is indeed worth 1,000 words. So why do we as educators continue to rely on words? For most students, a visual image is more effective than an explanation in words. We all learn differently, and visual learners are the largest group. This means that many children will benefit from using pictures and seeing images to help them understand the new concept. Visual learners are those who learn through seeing things, good at receiving information through visual media, books, whiteboards, etc. can be used, likes colors and fashion, dreams in color, understands likes charts, is good with sign language, is good at spelling, but forget names, has to think a while before understanding lecture. It is estimated that 65% of people are visual learners. Teachers assume everyone learns best through auditory instructions and verbal expressions. In fact, many students learn more effectively through a blended learning approach that combines visual and auditory instruction. Next comes auditory learners. Auditory learners learn by hearing and listening, understands and remembers things they have heard. They store information by the way it sounds, and they have an easier time understanding spoken instruction than written ones. They memorize best by hearing and speaking out loud. They remember names better than faces. They don't benefit as much as other learners from pictures or practical activities. They may be slow readers and find it difficult to understand graphs and diagrams or read maps. Auditory learners are those who learn best through hearing things, likes to read to self out loud, is good at grammar and foreign language, is not afraid to speak in class, reads slowly, likes oral reports, follows spoken directions well, is good at explaining, can't keep quiet for long periods, remembers names, enjoys acting, being on stage, notices sound effects in movies, is good in study groups, enjoys recitation with tartil and tajweed, is good in understanding series, sequences, and steps. Next come kinesthetic learner. Teaching strategy for auditory learners are use technology with sound, encourage discussion, encourage students to explain topics to each other, encourage oral presentation, explain information through songs and poems, etc. will work beautifully with the auditory learners. Next come kinesthetic learners. Kinesthetic learners prefer physically act out events or use all of their senses while learning. Kinesthetic learners absorb information best through movement and motion. Kinesthetic learners benefit from using rhythmic motions like hand clapping or finger snapping when reading or practicing math facts. Kinesthetic learners are those who learn through experiencing or doing things, is good at sports, can't sit still for long, is good, it's not great at spelling, studies with loud music on, does not have great handwriting, likes science lab, likes adventure books, movies, likes role playing, takes breaks when studying, builds models, is involved in martial arts, dance, etc., is fidgety during lectures. Kinesthetic learner cannot sit and learn. They will learn only by doing things, doing activities. Characteristics of kinesthetic learners are move around a lot, prefer not to sit still, move a lot while studying, like to participate in learning, like to do things rather than read about them, do not prefer reading, do not spell well, enjoys problem solving by doing. Kinesthetic learner suggestion. Kinesthetic learners can benefit from studying in short blocks, taking lab classes, role playing, taking field trips, visiting museums, studying with others, using memory games and flashcards to memorize. Next come tactile learner. Tactile learners acquire knowledge best through manipulation, doing, touching, hands-on experience, and writing techniques. Tactile learners process information best when they experience the world themselves. For example, when learning how to tie shoelaces, they will learn by trial and error, using practical ways and working it out with their own hands. Tactile learning is a learning style that emphasizes physical touch and hands-on experience to comprehend and retain information. It involves using the sense of touch to explore objects, manipulate materials, and engage in physical activities to enhance learning. Tactile learners benefit from interactive tasks such as building models, participating in experiments, and engaging in role-playing activities. How do tactile learners learn best? Tactile learner learn by touching and doing. A person can comprehend and remember things if he or she moves, because they are a hands-on learner who prefers to learn touch, movement, and build physical activity will help them learn the most. If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. See, for example, a teacher is teaching for the visual learner, having only visual aids. But what about for the kinesthetic learner, tactile learner, auditory learner? They are left out. So a teacher should plan to cater the needs of all the 4 types of learner. Visual, before going to the class, a teacher should prepare the teaching aids for the visual learner, auditory learner, kinesthetic learner, and tactile learner. Only then the classroom teaching learning aspects will be fulfilled. Each of us is gifted with a unique gift from Allah. Identify the gift and use it. Help others identify that gift. One size doesn't fit all. All the fingers are not same. Each child is unique. So we have to cater their needs, different needs, by preparing the lesson plan and teaching it for these type of learners. Coping with a learning disability. There is no cure for a learning disability, and we don't outgrow it. But it's never too late to get help. Most people with learning disabilities learn to adapt to their learning differences, and they learn strategies that help them accomplish their goals and dreams. The learning disability children, first we have to identify what type of learners, in which strategy they are good at. Based on that, we have to teach them, we have to approach them. For visual learners, we cannot follow the auditory aids. So first we have to understand the child's needs, the style of learning, then only we can start preparing the lesson plan. Screening. When the child is very young, lacks age appropriate skills, there may be factors for having a full-blown learning difficulty later. Early identification and intervention is very important. In young children, speech, language, attention, memory for letter and sounds, number skills, basic concept, as well as fine motor skills needed for writing are some of the areas tested in the screening. A detailed report that gives recommendation of other therapies as well as the need areas to be worked on will be helpful as the starting point for teaching. Assessment and educational assessment for children whom seem to be having difficulties and are performing poorly in school and are referred by the teachers are brought in by parents. This is the longer and more intensive process than screening and is often done with children above 6 years who have some skills. A detailed case history is obtained by meeting the parents in order to get a thorough understanding of the child's background. Some of the areas assessed. Some basic factors observed during assessments are the arousal and sustaining of attention, expressive and receptive language areas, and the taking of instructions, mental fatigue, interest, etc. Some of the areas assessed in the assessment. The basic skills of reading, comprehension, listening, spelling, writing mechanical, writing expressive, writing mechanical in the sense the sitting posture of the child, the holding the pencil, whether the left hand, the child is left-hander or right-hander, and whether the child has tripod grip or not, all those things are screened. Writing expressive in the sense expressive language. Skill is age appropriate level, whether the child has age appropriate vocabulary, sentence structure, whether the child knows to write in a sentence according to the age. All those things will be assessed. Copying skills. Copying skills, we have two types. One is near point copying, another one is far point copying. Near point copying, copying from textbook or notebook. Far point copying, copying from blackboard. The time consumed to complete that one sentence. We have the formula to calculate the age of the child and the writing age of the child. Whether it is same or different, based on that, we have to plan the need and strength of the child before writing the lesson plan. Subject comprehension, mathematics, second language, focus on task on hand, visual perception, motor planning, and execution are some of the skills assessed in screening test. We have step by step to conduct the screening test. Before taking the child to remedial class, first we have to follow these steps. Scope and sequence for doing the screening of a child. First we have to receive the referral checklist from the class teacher. In the next slide, I will show you what is referral checklist. The second step is we have to segregate the ES scope and sequence for doing screening test. Screening of a child. First step is we have to receive referral checklist from class teacher. Then the second step is we have to segregate ESL children. ESL children is the child who has English as a second language difficulty. They are really good. They are not dyslexic. They don't have any learning difficulties. But only thing is they don't know English. They cannot understand. They come from the background where they are not exposed to the English language. So those children also cannot perform well in academic. So we cannot decide these children and comes under learning disability. So first we have to identify whether the child has really a learning disability problem or ESL child. The children who could be dyslexic, we have to segregate. Then the third, observe these children who would be dyslexic in the classroom. This observation will be done by the special educator after receiving the referral checklist from the class teacher. Next, we have to do that. The special educator will do the screening test. First, vocabulary index, phoneme, grapheme correspondence, knowledge of alphabet, Shonell graded word reading test. Inshallah, next session, I will explain what is Shonell graded word testing. Reading comprehension, listening comprehension, Shonell graded word spelling test. This also we have received from Madras Dyslexia Association. Inshallah, in the next session, I will show you what is Shonell graded word spelling test. Visual discrimination, writing mechanical aspects, far point copying, near point copying, expressive writing, auditory sequential memory, digit span, VMI, visual motor integration, are some of the area we are screening in the screening test. Next, we have to get the detailed case history from the parent. Case history with the parents. A detailed case history is obtained by meeting the parents in order to get a thorough understanding of the child's background. Whether in their family background, anybody is affected with the learning disability, otherwise during pregnancy, whether the mother has undergone any surgery or any diseases, all those things may reflect on the child. So first we have to get the background history from the parents about the child. This is the referral checklist given to the class teachers. They have to fill this. First is the identification of checklist for the classroom teachers. Instruction to the teachers. The checklist will be done for those children who experience the following points and not done for all the students in the class in general. those having a gap between potential and performance, those struggling to read, write, and spell, those who know orally but can't do much written work, those who get very low marks despite studying, preparing for the exams. We would have also heard from the parents, நேத்து ஃபுல்லா உட்கார்ந்து அவ்வளவு படிச்சா எக்ஸாமுக்கு ஆனா ஒண்ணுமே எழுதல, எல்லாம் கேட்டா எல்லாம் மறந்துட்டேன், the paper will be blank. But the child really prepared well for the exam, but the child could not perform in the exam. So please note, ESL children will not come under this referral system. ESL children we should not include in the learning disability category. First, then we have to put a tick in the blue pen where you feel is appropriate to a child who is not performing to his or her potential in class. Then the class teacher should hand over the checklist to the remedial class teacher, so that based on that, the remedial teacher can do the screening test. These are the points given in the referral checklist for reading. Whether the child has trouble naming letters. If the child has trouble naming letters, the class teacher will put a tick there. If the child doesn't have the troubling naming letters, means the teacher will put cross. Based on the tick, how many ticks the child is getting, based on that only the remedial teacher will observe the child, whether the child has really problem in these areas. Accordingly, the remedial teacher will write the lesson plan to take the remedial classes. Second is struggles with consonant vowel sound. Most of the children will be thorough with the consonant sound. They'll have problem with the vowel sound. Slow and labored reading, often letter by letter or word by word. Confuses, verb tenses may mix up see, saw, and seeing. Reversals of B, D, P, Q, W, M, T, F, N, U. All those confusion they'll be having. Reversal, they'll be writing in reverse. Mispronounces or misreads words, fears to read aloud in the class, decodes words too slowly while reading and loses comprehension, does not seem to understand what he or she has read, not able to read simple words like cat, mat, bed, etc. Even 3-letter word also the child cannot read, being in grade 5, has inadequate reading vocabulary, has difficulty remembering content that is just read in a story, guesses a word by seeing the first letter, requires more time to read or answer questions than other students, has difficulty tracking a printed line across the page. These are the steps we have to test for under reading category. Next comes spelling. Cannot name the letters of the alphabet in sequence, does not hear fine differences in words. For example, spells pin as pen, spells a word in several different ways, doesn't hear the sequence of sounds in a word, and writes isolated parts of it. For example, writes amil for animal, reverses letters B for T or P for Q, even though the child knows the correct spelling. While in oral, the child say P-E-N, pen. But while writing, the child writes for P, the child writes Q. So that reverses letters. B for D or P for Q, even whole words like saw as was or the as te. All this problem the child may face while writing spelling. Has no memory for common words and spells does as does and said as said. Fails to recognize the same word twice or later on the same page. Can give the spelling orally, but mistakes are encountered while writing it down. Cannot do a spelling test correctly if the words in the original list are dictated in a mixed order. Has problems understanding and spelling abstract words. Then comes writing. Both mechanical and expressive writings are screened. Cannot write on the line, uneven spacing. Sometimes the child leaves too much spacing or too less spacing. They won't leave space at all. They'll write all the words together as if it's one big word. Otherwise, they write in one line, they'll write only 3 words. That means too much spacing will be there or too less spacing. Formation of letter is incorrect. Pencil hold is inappropriate and inconsistent. Posture while writing is incorrect. Very slow with written work. Too much or too little pressure. For a few children, when they write, we cannot even see what they have written. So the pressure is very less. So it's light. Some children will put more pressure so that that impression will fall on till 10 pages. So too much or too little pressure also the child may follow while writing. Finds it difficult to copy accurately and fast from the board. Incomplete classwork. Cannot write a simple sentence independently. Copies inaccurately even from near point copying. Has difficulties in writing long answers in test. Relatively better in expressing orally than in words. Freezes when asked to give handwritten answers in sentences, paragraphs, or essays. Writing is messy with many crossouts and erasers. If you see their classwork or homework notebook, it will not be neat. They would have scribbled, they would have overwritten. All those messiness will be there in the notebooks while writing. Next comes math. The areas which we are going to screen in the math is they will not able to sequence. The sequence of numbers will be screened. Not able to sequence numbers from 1 to 100. Difficulties with the teen and tie numbers. For example, 13, 30. They will not understand the difference between teen and tie numbers. 14, 40, 15 and 50. This reversal and inversions also will be there. Not aware of place value. Poorly aligns numbers resulting in computational errors. Is not able to do simple addition with carryover and regrouping. Is not able to do simple subtraction, borrowing, subtraction and regrouping. Is not aware of multiplication tables. Not aware of the concepts of multiplication and division. Not aware of higher level concepts like decimals, integers and fractions. Has difficulty with geometry, visuospatial. Next comes general category. Has difficulty following spoken or written instruction, does not know picture of a scene or a story or predict what may happen next, what is expected of them when given oral instruction that are not complete, confuses left and right, has poor sense of direction, cannot explain cause and effect in a picture of a scene or a story or predict what may happen next, can remember more information when hearing it read aloud or discussed than when they read it silently to themselves, can do a learning task better if they can see it and handle the parts first, has difficulty in memorizing poems, does not sit in one place, moves around, sits very quietly in his own dream world in class. The child will be physically present in the class, but mentally he is absent. So sits very quietly in his own dream world class, very talkative, disturbs others in class. There are different types of children. Some children will sit quietly, but nothing will be listened by them. Some children always they'll talk and they will always disturb others. Very talkative, disturb others in class. Does the instruction from school well in subject where he likes the teacher. Does not report. Anything happen in the school, that child will not go and tell to the parent. Anything happen with the parent, that also the child will not come and express with the friends or teachers. So they won't report anything. Next comes executive functions difficulties. Not confident, hesitates, does not take any initiative. They won't come forward if any opportunity is given to them. Disorganized, misses his stationery supplies. We have received so many complaints from the parent. See, every day I'm buying and giving one new pencil, but the child is missing the stationery. So what is happening in the school? They'll blame the school. So actually the problem with the child, they cannot take care of their belongings. Disorganized, misses his stationery, supplies, personal belongings, poorly maintain his books, forgets to bring or wear spectacles, has difficulty in bringing books according to the timetable, late or no submission of assignment. They won't do the homework. If at all they do the homework also, they won't submit. Sequencing difficulties are some of the executive difficulties the child faces in the school as well as at home. Next, after whatever I read, all those things given in the referral checklist. Those checklists must be filled by the respective class teachers. Then they have to hand over to the remedial teacher. Then the remedial teacher will take this form to go to the class, and whichever child has learning disability, those children will be observed by the special educator, and the special educator will fill this form. Student name, date, observer, time, and class observed, teacher, all those details to be filled. Then description of setting the task. Then what is the people teacher ratio, that also to be observed. Description of the student performance. Rate the student with the check in the most appropriate box for each of the areas listed. So here they have given the list of area. First, listening comprehension, oral expression, basic reading skills, reading comprehension, written expression, math calculation operation, math reasoning, discrimination, visual auditory, visual motor coordination, memory, visual auditory, attention organization, activity level, social interaction, work habit, task completion, motivation, speech. All these areas are observed by the special educator, and we have to fill the column. Behavior not observed, whether the child has significant behavior not observed, whether the child has significant problem or some problem, whether the child has problem or not. No problem means we have to put a tick in no problem. Some children will have strength in some areas. Those things also to be noted on. It will be help the special educator to handle the children. Through their strength only, we have to overcome the difficulties. We have to fulfill the need of the child. So what is the child's strength? First, we have to assess the strength of the child. Then we have to write the comments. Hope I think the session time up.
Yes,
So
yes,
inshallah,
yes,
so we'll continue in the next session, sir.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Jazakallah khair for everybody for patiently listening to me. Inshallah, I'll continue the session in the upcoming session.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair, wonderful session, sister.
Barakallah.
Actually, today's session is just dealt with how to identify the children with difficulty. We need to start in the KG level itself. We need to identify at the kindergarten level. We have to give the remedial from the standard one, and we need to appreciate the child. It's very important, and we should not shout at all at the child. That is there, and we need to understand the strength. By understanding the strength only, we can work on the children to overcome the weakness. And wonderful sister has completely shared the rubric, the checklist, how to identify the child. Inshallah, she will continue with the, I think she will handle 2 more sessions to complete this topic. Jazakallah khair, sister.